me ducks, it's Simon here. Welcome back to the Hermit's Cave. It's great to see so many people already here in the chat. So hello to everybody who's been here for probably the last 10 minutes or so, chatting away. It's lovely to see you all. Today I am joined by the fabulous Giselle from the channel Madwitch. So yeah, Giselle and I, well, Giselle is somebody that I call a friend. So I've had the absolute pleasure of spending some time in real life, not in internet world, but in real life with Giselle and her hubby. And it's certainly a memory that I treasure. And it's just really nice to have this opportunity today to be able to chat with her and get to know her a little bit more, if that's possible, because from the moment we met up in Glastonbury some 18, 19 months ago, we hit it off and was nattering, and I felt like I got to know her anyway. She called me her brother, and she really does feel like a sister. So without further ado, let's introduce and say hello to our lovely Giselle. Hi, Giselle.
Hi, darling. Hi, Simon. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, yeah, can you believe it's like 18 months or more?
I remember we talked about it, and I remember saying to you, I want to be the first person to take you to Glastonbury. And I had the honour of being able to do that. And it was amazing. Absolutely. I think at the time, I mean, we hadn't anticipated it was going to be Frost Fair. And it was heaving, but we'd managed to get our favourite parking space, and it was just stalls were everywhere. And I was on a mission, and I remember sort of towards the end of the sort of late afternoon, you know, it was like I dragged you in every shop.
You did, but it was really funny because I ended up booking a hotel. Was billed to be in Glastonbury, and it was 15 miles outside of Glastonbury. So I got there really early, and the park where you recommended I should park was actually the meter was broken, and they were saying, "Oh, it's free parking." They're not, you know, it's just free parking. So I was like, bonus. I remember walking down the high street looking for this cafe that you'd mentioned that we should eat in, and seeing all these stalls being set up, and I thought, oh, there must be a market day on. And then I sat and waited for you to arrive in this little cafe, and it was like, it's Frostfest. And then up to like 2 hours later, we was like this.
And then we went into the pub for lunch because we were flagging by that point, and everyone was like, we're not going to get a table, we're not. And I just stood in this one place, and I ended up being the way I am, went up and said, you planning to leave? And off they trotted. It was just the best day. It was wonderful. It was really great. That's the mug, isn't it, from Glastonbury?
Yes, this is the mug I brought off one of the stalls.
That's right. Yeah.
The stall.
Yeah.
I saw this one, and yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can remember you was like, we've got to have the George experience.
Yeah.
So brave, because we went in there and it was heaving. Like, they're sat there, they've finished eating, they've got empty glasses. Just went, oh, will you be going anytime soon? And they were lovely, weren't they?
I do that, don't I? I'm sorry, but yeah, it was such a great day. It was just the best.
It was. And you know, I'm going to, hopefully, unless there's another spot, I'm going to Glastonbury in about 5 weeks' time. But Glastonbury will always link to you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, bless you.
So
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
We went yesterday for the first time this year, and it was empty. There's a couple of shops that have gone. but one of them was going anyway. Funny enough, the one shop that I didn't want to go in, do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's another whole nother experience. They've gone. But do you know, the sad thing is I'd kind of got over the problem I had with it, and I'd gone in there, and that's actually where I got my broomstick from. But the funny part of it all is that I was kind of psyched up. It was probably the most authentic witchy shop there, and it's gone. So, and if I could, I'd probably love to have a shop there myself and live in the flat above or something. You know, that would be awesome. But yeah, it was quiet. And if anybody is local to Glastonbury, it would be nice if they could go to support the shops, because obviously it's been such a time for them. I supported the bookshops heavily.
I know. And you know, it's such a shame, isn't it? It's just been announced this afternoon that our little souvenir shop that I always talk about on the channel, Ducky, that does the Ailme ducks and coasters, they've gone today as well.
Really? Oh no.
The only saving thing is they're going to try and continue online. But
quite so.
3 months of being short has taken its toll on little independent shops. So
yeah
really. So okay, so let's kick off there. So firstly, do you want to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Oh, okay. Well, I suppose I'm 55. I have 4 grown-up children and 2 grandchildren and another one on the way. And I'm a very proud mum and grandma, but I'm also very proud of the witchcraft side of my life now. And I guess I've just kind of come into my own. So I'm at that age where I feel I've got a chance to really be me. And yeah, it came through. I'm quite I don't know, am I a Marmite person? I'm not sure. I'm quite outspoken, but I like to think that I'm respectful of other people. I feel that I've reached that stage in my life where I kind of need to be an advocate for you know, what I believe in. So and I love meeting people like this. It's quite a nice way to interact.
Yeah. So when you say you like meeting people like this, how did you discover the online community? How did you know there was an online community? And was it you're looking for tarot, or was it looking for witchy channels?
Well, no, because 2 years ago, I think it was April 2 years ago, I'd been out of organised religion for I don't know, a good year, maybe longer, to be fair. And I'd ended up in this secondhand bookshop in Swanage, where we go with our caravan, and I'd picked up this tarot book, and I'd kind of not really had any thoughts on what I wanted to do, or I'd been very heavily into my religious belief, my spiritual belief. I want to call it my spiritual belief, because although I felt I'd lost something, I mourned the loss of what I had kind of lived with all my life, but the organized religion side of it really didn't work for me. But I kind of lost both in the process, and I was just kind of floating. And then I picked up this book, and I knew about tarot, but I didn't really kind of know about tarot. So I picked it up, started reading it, and said to hubby, I think I need to get the deck, because I kind of need to, you know, have the deck. And once I got the deck, which was the ancient Italian, handy, and so I got this deck, and I was kind of a bit bemused by it, really. But then I decided I'd taken my borders off. I did it on Benjamin, and I edged it. And the only thing I didn't do was take the corners off. But I came home, I went on YouTube looking for some information more about it than on the book, and I found Kelly from The Truth and Story and you. And it really was the 2 pillars. It was the community. I fell through the rabbit hole. I fell down the rabbit hole, and I literally didn't look back. I remember she was talking about these decks, and then I found your channel, and it was just crazy. It really, for me, I think I started off as a collector, because I didn't really believe I would have the talent to be able to read, or the psyche, or you know, that side of it. So for a good year I was completely into the tarot. I mean, Heidi from Heidi Did What, she and I kind of paired up about the same time, and she was in the same place as me. And it's like, I've got to get this deck and I've got to get that deck. And you were at that point where you were, there was one video and you came on and you had like 5 or 6, if not more, boxes of openings. And I'm like, how does he read all these decks? It was crazy. And I think I thought, okay, I kind of need to introduce myself. And I never thought I'd do a YouTube ever. It just was so weird. But it felt so encompassing and so welcoming and so friendly. And that's how I kind of touched base with you. And then once I sort of put myself out there as, you know, this is me. Because obviously there's a lot of people on, you don't always get to see face to face. So I did that. And then after that, I kind of wanted to learn. And I remember saying to myself, I'm never going to be into the witchcraft. I'm just going to stick to collecting tarot and learning tarot. Never say never.
Yeah.
Because that was, the first year was tarot, and then the second year was the craft. And I didn't see either coming.
Wow.
I didn't plan it at all.
I suppose, I mean, most of us, and I was exactly the same. I think when I found the community, you feel like you almost got to play catch up, don't you? You join in this community, this family, everybody's showing all these decks, and you know, having spent time with you, you have the same personality as I do.
Oh, and wow.
Going in and out all these shops, weren't we? Like 2 kids in sweet shops, encouraging each other. And you should get this. You know, if you said to me one more time that day, you should get this. You know, you have the same personality, and I get that because I felt really like almost like I've got to catch up. But of course, you don't. You know, it doesn't matter if you've got 1 deck, 10 decks, or 1,000 decks.
Yeah.
It's about your purpose, isn't it? And you do get to that point, I think, where you know, we still see shiny, lovely things, and we want them, but you do get to that point where it's more about how you use it, and you know,
if you look back on my videos of when I did my first little sort of my room, and now look at my room, and it's like you did the same because you've got all those new bookshelves, and it's like, oh, Simon's got those, they will work for me. Hey, look, there they are. Because you can't, I mean, I've always collected books. I've always been a massive book worm, and I've actually had to release a whole bookshelf of books that I'd been reading on sort of war and medieval stuff to make room for this avalanche, literally, of witchcraft books. Predominantly, to be fair, I have a small collection of tarot, but mainly it's the craft books, because it's just once you're in there, there's no way out. I don't think you come out again. I know for me, being out of the broom closet was really kind of easy because I haven't got the restrictions that a lot of other people have. And I think that's the one thing I feel quite strongly about, is we live in an age where we're so broad-minded and we're so respectful of so many other things, that I do get saddened when the one area that still kind of is almost taboo is witchcraft.
Yeah.
You can say almost anything else. You can be any religion. You can be anything else. But if you say you're a witch or it's witchcraft, it's almost, sorry, I don't know how to turn that off. You could get either way. Either people, I mean, even my lovely children, bless them, who were brought up predominantly in the Christian faith, you know, oh, mum's a witch, snigger snigger, because they don't understand what to be a witch really is about. So I kind of think it's a shame that when we live in such a broad society, that there are still witches that can't, you know, express that.
And why do you think that is? I mean, I've got my own theories. mainly because I still think, particularly in this country, the church and the state are in bed together. You know, the church and state are married. It's called a marriage.
Yeah.
Our laws are still very much governed by church. You know, we still have bishops in the House of Lords who are our lawmakers. Do you think it's that? Because I think the country is becoming more secular. Church attendances are dropping at an exponential rate. But do you think it's? I don't know. What are your views as to why it's so taboo still?
I think there is a huge amount of people, and not even religious people, although there is that strong element still. I mean, I went from being Church of England to Catholicism, and it was the Catholicism that actually destroyed my faith because of, ironically, but I also think that between that and the fact that we've got a lot of really good TV series and films and what have you, but they do obviously give a very different idea of witchcraft. I think if you don't know anything about it, and I kind of didn't, to me, witchcraft was something that was medieval predominantly. I kind of knew that I'd heard the term white witch. I'd heard that, there were possibly, still, different cultures that did some kind of magic, but it does conjure up this crone image on a broomstick. And I think that when you actually start to really study it and you start to talk to other witches and you start to realize how broad it is, it becomes something very real. It became something very different for me. But I had to kind of really take out of my head the whole, because I think a lot of people still believe witches worship Satan.
Yeah.
Massive amount of people see it as negative. And of course, most witches don't actually believe in Satan, don't have any, there's a whole different ball game. So I think it's not until you study, until you start talking to real witches, and I have found both the tarot and the witch community to be so welcoming, so all-encompassing, so tolerant, so patient, and really so friendly. It's incredible. You can be so diverse and you will still fit in.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're absolutely right. And myself, from a Mormon background, my belief was always that witchcraft was it was occultism, it was sinful, it was black magic, and it was a pathway to hell. Really, that's kind of how I was taught. I remember years ago working in an old job and somebody telling me that there was a witch, and I remember really kind of thinking, oh my goodness, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, are you a white witch?
Yes.
And she was just like, I'm kind of nature based, and then started to talk to me about it, and I was thinking, she's not a real witch then.
What is a real witch? And I know some that I mean, I have a very good friend who relates to colour in witchcraft. So, but I know that some don't. But what I've learned is I am very much an eclectic solitary witch, and I do pick up from all over. And although a lot of my books are Wiccan based, I pick out the bits that suit me. But my element is earth. My tarot card, although it's the wheel of the wheel of fortune, I'm very much hermit because of the Virgo influence. So for me, the earth element is very strong, and it really connected me to. The more I read, the more I realized that I was actually doing most of this stuff in one form or another, but just in a very, very natural way. So I suppose perhaps the word witch does kind of still have that undertone, but I'm actually really proud of it, and I'm really proud to use it. I want to because I'm a certain age, I want to promote it, and I want to think that the youngsters that are coming into it, or even older women who are, I think, coming out of hibernation because of the state of the planet, I want us to feel that we can actually be a strong voice, not feel that we've got to be quiet. I can't be quiet.
But we won't have you any other way. So you said that, you know, for the first year, tarot came first. So let's go right back. So obviously, you talked about being Catholic. You talked about Christian. Was your upbringing Christian as well?
No, no. My parents were much older when I came along, because my father was actually in the war, Second World War, and he was a prisoner in Java. And by the time they met and married, sadly, it took them a long time to conceive. And I came along when my mother was in her 40s, which was a bit of a shock. She was French Flemish and came from a very strong Catholic family, but didn't go to church. Wasn't she took me once to a Catholic church, but they didn't have me christened. They didn't do anything. And sadly, because my mother died when I was 12, I felt very lost, being an only child. And I was drawn, I suppose, through a friend into the church, because it was a community. And I often wonder what would have happened if I had been lucky enough to meet a witch, and my life would have been very, very different. But I think, you know, things happen for whatever reason, and that was the road that I ended up down. And I went to a Catholic convent school, and there are parts of, even now, that I remember the first time I was in assembly and I heard them chanting the Hail Mary, and it gave me goosebumps. It was incredibly beautiful. But I think that, you know, that whole, again, it's a very feminine divine. It's that very beautiful feeling of that nurturing mother influence. So I think perhaps for whatever reason, that, you know, that's where I had to be. So yeah, and then I just kind of stayed in the church on and off. But I found it very difficult because I am quite solitary. So I think the whole church thing for me, I kind of ebbed and flowed. And then when I went into Catholicism, I sort of wanted to go deeper with my spiritual. I'd always, even as a small child, before religion was brought into it, I've always had that strong sense of that connection with that divine. And I think I just gravitated towards the male kind of side to it, because even as a very young child, I can remember feeling that divine in, and that was really, you know, precious for me. But I lost that connection when I left, and I did feel very empty and alone. And although when the goddess, and again, that was something I hadn't anticipated, I was in the shower, I was just merrily, you know, humming away, doing whatever I do. And I can remember it was only, you know, a year ago, and she was very clear. My thoughts were, I devote myself to the goddess, and they just came into my head, and I'm like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And I remember thinking at that moment, there is no way back. I've said those words in my head. And I think what she did was she just waited until there was a lull, so she could kind of, hello, I'm here. And that was it. That's kind of it. I knew from that moment on, I went back.
And who is that goddess? Who is your goddess that you devote yourself to?
Well, there again, you know, interesting that you were saying, I think it was you that said also that, I mean, coming out of organized religion, I didn't want deity. I didn't want anything like, I was quite determined I wasn't having deity in my life.
Yeah.
So that was like, what? So to me, it was sort of Gaia. It was, I believe that the goddess is all the goddesses. They just have the different characteristics, and they come into your life at different times depending on what you need or what they want. And to be fair, I was so taken aback by it that the first thing I kind of said was, I need help. I wish I had a little old witch around the corner who could teach me. And to be fair, the goddess was not in any of her particular forms. It was very much an earth Gaian feel. But she did send me a mentor, and I am eternally grateful for that mentor, who had 20 years experience in the craft and was happy to share and talk to me about, you know, different elements of it. So for my dedication, which I did in Samhain last year, they were very much influential for me in what I was doing. But what I found was I needed to find my own path, and that meant I just and also there was so much coming at me to try and learn everything. It's a bit like tarot. When you're first starting out with tarot, it all feels just too much and you can't remember everything. So I was basically just overwhelmed, I think, saturated. And so I stepped back to try and find my own path. And that was also the time when I think what happened was it felt as if the goddess said, well, you know, if you're going to walk this path, we need to spring clean. So we're doing your shadow work. We're going into the loft of your brain and we're going to open all those doors. And I'm like, no. And what's in this drawer? And what's in this cupboard? And I'm just stood there and all this stuff's coming out. And I went in to do the shadow work. And as I went in to do the shadow work, the Morrigan came in the cave. And I did a shadow work video that was quite raw even for me, which I ummed and ahed about putting up. But I thought, you know what, I'm not here at 55 to sit in the background. I'm here to share my experiences. I'm old enough to verbalize them in a way that hopefully somebody might benefit from. And to watch me fall flat on my face, and to watch me get up and fall flat on my face again, or whatever because that is the most humbling experience, is to share whatever I do in a way that would be useful. So I went in, did the shadow work, didn't come out again. I think I'm still there. But the Morrigan came in and I'm like, I don't really know anything about any of this. I don't know anything about goddesses. And that's quite a serious, I mean, I taught, the Morrigan for me is 3. It's the, you know, and I call them my 3 mothers. But I started there, but then the Morrigan seems to dip in and out. And she kind of threw Aphrodite and Hecate in the mix. And I'm kind of, what's going on? Because I'm like, whoa, you know, I'm one person. But actually, I took it on board. I took what they wanted on board. I knew exactly what I needed to do with both of them. And they've kind of all settled down and seem to be quite comfortable with each other. And that seems to be working so far. So we'll see.
And it's so right, isn't it? If you come out of a religion that's organized, and you will, after a lifetime of that, have that sort of hole in the soul and that empty feeling.
Yeah.
We get past that, and what we don't want is any sort of dogma. We don't want any sort of, particularly if you've had an experience that's felt quite oppressive. But I think what's really nice on this path is that it is open and it is freeing, and you can almost kind of tailor your own system to fit with your life and walk your own path comfortably without fear of judgment or criticism. You know, there's always going to be people that say, well, I don't necessarily agree. But what I've found so far is that there is much more sort of openness for people to explore a solitary path without that.
I mean, I was like trying to read all these books, trying to take on board what my mentor was saying, and what was happening was that I was going through these motions with my big grimoire open, trying to make sure that I did everything. And I thought, hang on a minute, I'm not getting the essence of this. This isn't what I'm, and so I drew back to go, okay, well, what do I want out? What works for me? And when you stop trying to take everything in and just go with the flow, then it started to settle down a bit. And so for one full moon, I didn't do any ritual. I just went and sat out under the stars or under the moon so that I could actually just draw down that energy and just be in the moment with that moon. And so I'm also aware that I don't like the big ritual stuff. I don't like, and that's where I think Wicca for me doesn't work. Some of it can be quite high ritual. I'm so simple. I'm so basic. You know, it to me, the magic can be literally in looking at that daisy in the grass and just seeing the delicateness of what is being created. And strangely enough, with what's been going on, obviously with COVID, we've been here. I'm so lucky, I'm so blessed where we are that I have the grounds to walk in, and I've had a rekindling of nature in such a profound way that it has massively empowered me in my crone phase at a time when I want to share that. And having grandchildren, when I get to be with them, I get to be a child again. And the more I grow in my spiritual witchcraft, the more childlike I kind of get, and the more I see myself through a child's eyes. And I think that when I look back on all the books that I used to read as a child, there was magic in those Enid Blyton books and what have you. And I'm kind of, oh yeah, bring back that. And my daughter sometimes is like, Mum, you know, and I'm like, yeah, but it's fun to be a child again. And I think she's like, oh God, what's happening to my mother? But you know, I love it.
We have to see the wonder in the mundane, don't we? We have to see the beauty that very often we walk around and with blinkers focused on what we need to do each day. We forget just to look at the majesty around us and the beauty of our surroundings. You're absolutely right. One of the blessings of this awful pandemic has been that Gaia, Mother Nature, has reclaimed, you know, and she's been able to breathe again and show some of her beauty. And it's made us stop in our tracks and just look up and appreciate a bit more. So it's wonderful that. Diane asked what Giselle's channel is. So Giselle's channel is called Madwitch, and in the information below, there is a link to Giselle's channel if you want to click on that.
My husband named me Madwitch. I wondered about changing because I changed my Instagram actually. I used to be Madwitch and then I shut that all down, and now I'm Elka Stormborn, which is a combination of a nickname that my husband gave me and a witch name that I took on. And I said to him, that sounds so pompous and he's like, no, it sounds really lovely. And I thought, I don't know, some people might go Madwitch, that's crazy, but I can't. They both start. I am mad. I am a witch, so I guess, you know.
Yeah, it's a fab title. I love it. It's great. Okay, so tarot. So you said first deck, Ancient Italian, great first deck.
Have you done anything to yours?
No, because I've got the Il Meneghello version.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I just kept it, you know.
Okay.
As it
Have
is.
you got the borders on those?
Yes. Yeah, I've kept it completely, you know, as is. But it's
I've got an ancient sort of look to mine, and to be fair, once I did that, they popped.
Yeah.
As we like to say in the industry.
As we say, yeah. So that was your first deck. But what was your first memory of tarot? Can you remember what your earliest memory is?
What you mean before I actually sort of came into tarot?
Yeah.
I think I think I must have been to psychic fairs where they probably used tarot, but I hadn't really and like you, tales of the unexpected with the and when I started to get into it, hubby nicknamed me Solitaire. I actually got that deck and I got it out the other day, and I need the book, and the book's down the caravan, so I couldn't do anything with it. So no, I think I've always known about it, but it's never really crossed my path enough. And I think when I came into tarot, I had no idea to the extent of decks there are out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's just gradually getting more and more. So no, I would say that probably it's very limited in Tales of the Unexpected, Solitaire, and that kind of thing. Nothing very much.
Yeah. And what about witchcraft or witches? Earliest
memory? My absolute wonderful love was Bewitched. And my ringtone is Bewitched, and it has been for years. In fact, my ringtone for Bewitched what goes way before I went into the craft, way before. I loved Samantha. My second name is Samantha. I love Samantha. I loved the whole series, and still do. I thought it was the best. And I can remember Lizzie Dripping. You were talking about her the other day. Yes. I can remember that as well. But yeah, my mother, funnily enough, one of the earliest memories I do have is that at night she would tell me stories of us as witches, and we'd be flying off on a broomstick. And I can remember just falling to sleep with these wonderful stories that she just used to make up. And they were great. And there was a magazine, and it's a shame because I cannot be absolutely sure what this magazine was. But when I was young, which is going back some now, but so it must have been late 60s, early 70s, probably early 70s. There was a magazine, and I thought it was called Esmeralda, but it was about this witch, and it was like a cartoony witch, and she was quite scatty, and she had these wrinkly tights and and I loved those magazines, and I wish I could find them. I wish I could get hold of them. But yeah, I think witchcraft was always there. And in fact, funny enough, just talking to you about it now makes me realize how far back it really did go.
Yeah, but we don't dwell on that. Time is irrelevant. So tell us a little bit about your practice then, Giselle. How does witchcraft come into your daily life? So what's an average day for you like in terms of
actually all encompassing. To me, it's not a religion. It is very much everything for me. And growing. I think over the winter period when there wasn't much going on, I was trying to read a lot, and I'd think, I'm never gonna really get there. Am I a fraud? That whole imposter syndrome feeling. But then as the garden woke up and I was, out in the garden more. So for me, it's a very earth practice, getting the garden ready. I wanted to create a magical herb bed. I wanted to continue to grow vegetables. I'm hugely advocate of organic. I believe that if you're fortunate enough to have a garden or even pots that you can grow something in, you're taking it straight from the plant. You're getting the nutrients and the minerals and all of that stuff. So I wanted everything I did to be very organic and very natural in anything I did. So for me, in my craft, it's learning about the herbs. So I started I put it on Instagram, but I've been making another grimoire. That's my...
and yours are fantastic. When you showed your...
The other one's in the other room. I'd have to leave the room to go and get it. But this is what I call my practical day. So all of these are in the plastic folders, but the other grimoires are kind of more old-fashioned looking, if you like, which I made. It has got a flaw in it, but so the idea was for me to study herbs, study trees. So I study a tree a month. I've just done Elder Mother because I have a lovely elder tree in the garden, and I've connected with her, and she's hugely important to me as the high priestess of the tree world. She's wonderful. So I've got an absolute ton of books on herbs. I want to learn more about essential oils and how they work. So just harvesting my herbs and making them into smudge sticks or making them into incense bundles. When I'm cooking, I'm not... The weird I'd say weird, but that's probably not the right word. The magic of coming into witchcraft for me was that although I was always affiliated with nature, I've always loved it. It's like somebody drew the curtains back and you can see everything almost with those vampire eyes, where the minutest detail suddenly becomes so much more colorful, and you see nature in such a much more vivid, vibrant way, so that when you're cooking, suddenly those herbs have a completely different magic that's going into whatever you're cooking. And I've made rose water just for myself, just to wash on, use my for facial. So my practice is everything. And even my kids, bless them, are like, Mum, it's all you think and talk about, because it's become all consumed. And so I talk to my grandchildren. I go, my little witchlings, and my eldest granddaughter, bless her little heart, they call me Nana Witch. And one of the days I was speaking to them on FaceTime, whatever it is, and I said, "Oh, have you been doing any magic today, sweetie?" And she went, "I have magic in my heart, Nana." And I'm like, "Oh God!" So she just, you know, children have this way of seeing magic in everything, and for me that kind of summed it up. So yeah, my practice is in everything. If I'm stirring my tea, if I'm sweeping the floor now, everything has a different meaning because of what I'm learning.
Oh, I love that. I think that is so beautiful, that it's part and parcel. It's the fibre of your being, isn't it? When you bring it into
crazy. It's really empowering. I don't know if it's my age or whether it's, you know, because I'm sort of really coming to that crone age, but it feels as if it's just like a rising phoenix in me. I have been called that, and I am having a phoenix tattoo on my leg in September. It's been put off and put off and put off because of this thing, but I'm hoping that in September I'm getting my sleeve finished and a phoenix rising on my leg. So
brilliant. So, I mean, you've kind of answered my next question anyway. But being as you might just want to expand on it, being as you fully embrace being a witch and you're out as a witch, I was going to ask how that's viewed in your immediate circle, family and close friends. Has it been completely accepted?
To be fair, there are certain areas where I don't go out and go, I'm a witch. I want to. I want to hang out the window and tell everybody, but there are a few areas that I have to be slightly careful with for other reasons, for my husband, and so and also because I do have friends that are still part of the church, and I feel almost a hypocrite by not coming out and saying it. But equally, I'm very respectful of them, and I happen to care about them and know that even my priest, it would hurt him so much. They wouldn't understand. And I don't feel that I need to explain myself. Yeah. And I don't feel that I need to hurt them. I don't have a downer on religion. I think and that's the other thing I think witchcraft is so good at is it's very tolerant of everybody else's, their belief and their path, and whatever path you're on is your path, and it is so non-judgmental, which is so refreshing. So I don't feel the need to ram my change in other people's faces, but I'm equally extremely proud. So my kids just think I'm mad anyway. I think to some degree they are okay with it, but in varying degrees. And my youngest daughter, bless her, came on and did the live with me last week for the 28 days of the moon. We had so many technical issues. Thank goodness she was there. She was lovely, and it was really, really nice. So I think, yeah, they're tolerant. As far as friends go, I'm quite solitary, so I don't really have any friends. People look at me anyway and think I'm mad. So when you add witch to it, nobody really blinks an eye.
So what's the community like? and I don't mean online, the physical community, geographical community around you, like, is there new age shop?
Don't know. No. The closest we've got is Burley, which is about an hour away in the New Forest, and then Glastonbury, which is 2 hours. As for a community around here, if there are witches, I don't know about them. I haven't really even explored it. I wouldn't. I suppose I could, but I think there's a lot to be said about maybe being part of a coven, because you can learn and you've got that support mechanism. But I know I'm a solitary. I know that in the end it would be, well, I don't want to do that, I want to do this. It's like the book club, you can never please everybody with who wants to read what. So yeah, I kind of just, because I've got that online community, because of Instagram and because of YouTube, I don't feel I'm missing out too much at all, really.
Yeah. No, I get that. I just wondered if there was kind of like a witchy bookshop or new age shops or anything near you.
No. I should open one.
Yeah. There's a gap in the market, clearly, Giselle.
Yeah.
Next, please. So we've talked about Glastonbury, but I just want to touch back on that because you just mentioned it again. It's 2 hours from you. So you go to Glastonbury quite often.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to explore why you like it so much. What is it about Glastonbury that draws you there to go quite often? Because 2 hours each way is quite a commitment.
Yeah. I'm not one doing the driving. I get to read for 4 hours. 4 hours of just sitting with a book reading.
I like your way of thinking.
I love it. I'm very lucky, actually. I think Glastonbury is a magical place. I think probably if I had more options closer, I wouldn't necessarily feel the need to go there as much, but I think it has its own merits. So it's almost like a devotional, isn't it? You go, although we didn't go up the tour, we just did the shops. I remember the first time I took my husband there, and he'd never been, and I hadn't been for 20 years, and I stopped to ask 2 ladies who had their back to me about the shopping times. And as they turned around, they were full witch regalia, the whole thing. And he was terrified, bless him. He just didn't have there were men walking around with big staffs in long, and he was like, whoa, where? And of course, all the shops had the incense burning outside, and it was just the most amazing experience. By the time we finished shopping that day, he was hooked. And it was like, I never want to go anywhere else. I think it has not lost it, but I think it kind of, with everything, there is that, it's very hard for shops to keep up. I think they're doing well to do as well as they do. It can be a bit pricey, but I do try and support them. And I think it's a pilgrimage for a lot of people. Burley is lovely, but there's a few shops that have gone from Burley as well. And then really, I don't know many other places around here to go. So to get my witchy fix, I've got to go to Glastonbury.
But you're right. I mean, I've only ever been that one weekend when I met yourself and your hubby, but I got the balance because, of course, as we mentioned, the Saturday was rammed, but there was such a great atmosphere. It was charged, and the shops were heaving but magical. And every shop you go in has its own aroma and own special vibe. Yeah. But then I got 8 o'clock Sunday morning the next day at the top of the tour on my own up there.
Yeah.
And you probably remember, just reduced it because the energy was completely different. So
you were chanting in there.
Yes, yeah, inside it was just such an amazing experience that weekend.
You did a live, didn't you? I'm pretty sure you went live, didn't you, for a bit of it? Yeah.
I did some filming as well for the Hermit on Tour bit, but I went live just early in that morning, just to share it with people, really. Because
the acoustics in there, I mean, how it sends you all goosebumps and everything.
Yeah, but it was just that amazing contrast, having having the hustle and bustle and excitement of everything of the Saturday, and then this peace and solitude, and then going down from the tour into the chalice well at the bottom.
Yeah,
sitting there, and it was just.
You went in the bishop's gate, didn't you, as well? You went in because I was insistent you went and met the grave of King Arthur, didn't I? Wasn't I nagging you to go and do that? You went. You did. Yeah, I'm sure you went in there.
The ruins.
Pardon? Yeah, the ruins.
Yes. Yeah, I went in.
Because I was nagging you, go in, because that's where he's supposedly buried.
Yeah, I did. I decided not to do the tour. I just wanted, and I could see the tour happening, and I could hear him. But that Sunday, I just had a real call to be on my own and just to experience the ruins, the well, and the tour completely on my own. Apart from when I brought the community in and went live, but there was just something it's such an amazing place. I cannot wait. I'm just really hoping nothing gets cancelled. But and so your tarot collection. Now you did a video quite recently again, didn't you? Showing your room, and I've seen how much it has grown.
Yeah.
How would you describe your tarot collection in terms of size, genre, systems, that sort of thing?
Expensive. We were away quite a lot last year because hubby was ill, so we got to be down the caravan, and I really struggled to leave my decks behind. How obsessive is that? And it's not because I was using all. I didn't want to leave them, so I actually I got a box to keep all my TDM decks in, which I hauled down there, and then one for all my out of print decks, and then it would take us about 5 trips from the car to the caravan just to take all my stuff in. And he's like, every time it's like, you're not bringing all these decks again. And I'm like, I can't choose between them. I don't know how many decks I've got now. I dread to think. I massively eased up when the witchcraft came in last year. I did really stop buying quite a lot of decks because I don't have the Rider-Waite background that you sort of had, so I was kind of, if I had a deck and it was like a different system like Dreams of Gaia, I wanted to sort of learn that deck and really study with it, but then I'd jump onto the Chrysalis Tarot, and then I'd be doing, trying to learn that one, and it kind of all started to feel a little bit lost. But I think that is part of the growing process. When you first start out with tarot, it can be quite daunting to learn which system you want. And I actually started off very much in the camp that swords were fire and wands were air. And I had to recalculate my brain. And then I found out later that there were decks that actually did have that elemental system. So I kind of kicked myself a bit because I thought, why didn't I stick with what it meant for me? And ironically, I'm just reading Queen's Up, the Queen's Up book, and they've got the association with swords as fire and wands with air. So my decks vary. I probably... I'm not huge Rider-Waite. I kind of wanted to strip back to the TDM decks because that's kind of where it started. But I have so many clones anyway, and I can't help but have learned the system of Rider-Waite anyway. So I will always really bring that in. For example, like the Eight of Cups, where you've got the image walking away. That's stuck. I'm stuck with those images, those, and you've got to kind of, I think it's a bolt-on system. I don't know if your experience is far, far, far greater than mine, so you might be able to sort of fill the gaps in for me. But for me, it's kind of, you've got to start somewhere, and then you bolt on. So my decks vary. I have a few Thoth-based, like the Sun and Moon deck, is it? I can't remember. Isn't that Thoth based?
Yeah.
I actually bought the Thoth book and deck to study, but it's down the caravan, so I haven't done anything with that. So most of mine will be clones predominantly, or completely different systems like the Dreams of Gaia.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. For me, and I can only speak, you know, my first deck wasn't a Rider-Waite Smith years ago when I was 16, but for the last 12 years it has been. And whatever cards, you know, I grab a deck, whatever cards I turn over, you know, 8 of Wands, 8 of Fire, my mind automatically sees the RWA image.
Yeah.
You see that card, and then I, like you say, you've got that underpinning knowledge, and you bolt on, you add on to it, and you start intuitively on top of your underpinning knowledge. So I completely agree with that. Are there any sort of cards you look out for in a particular deck if you're going to buy one? Do you have any sort of deal breakers?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always going to be the 6 of Swords, the 2 of. I'm terrible for swords. 8 of Cups is another one that I really like. So the 8 of Cups, the 6 of Swords is huge. The 2 of Swords predominantly. If we were looking at the majors, the High Priestess, the Moon, and possibly the Hermit, and the Death card. I mean, there's so many in the majors, but it is often the 6 of Swords that I really like in the minors. I don't know why. I do like the conventional image there of the boat, and I don't know why I'm drawn to that card, funnily enough, but it is one I will pick out, and the 8 of Cups.
Yeah, the 6 of Swords is one of mine as well. I love that concept, that hope when you turn that card, you know, that no matter how rough the waters now, you know, you're constantly moving in a new direction, and things will be calmer, and things will be more, you know, settled. It's a beautiful image. It's one of my favorites as well.
I think the thing is also is when you constantly get the same cards come up if you're using several decks, because I don't tend to read for other people. I probably should do more, but I tend to, it's for self-development for me. So if I get the same card come up in 3 different decks, then I take a lot more notice, and I think then that card might become significant for me if I'm looking through a deck, because I've had it so often. Like the 10 of Swords. Love that card.
Oh, we all look forward to that one.
Death of the Ego. I always remember that was Cassia from Tarot Map in TDM. She called it Death of the Ego, and it stuck. And that's how and I think that's one of the other things I probably would say for beginners is sometimes you read all these descriptions, and it's really hard then to kind of nail it down. But when something kind of makes sense to you, then it sticks, and then it's always going to represent that for you no matter what. Whether it doesn't for anybody else is irrelevant. That card is telling you, because it knows that psychologically that's how you see that card. So I will always know if that card comes up that I'm being slapped.
Yeah, no, I like that, because for me, 10 of Swords has always been, because Swords is about the intellect, it's about your mind, thoughts and everything. And that 10 is just, for me, because I'm an overthinker.
Yeah, so am I.
About everything. To me, that's like, you brought this on yourself, but you've got the power to get up from that and carry on forward. But I guess, it's linked to that, isn't it? Of course, you know, that sort of...
I'm in my mind. You froze.
Oh, okay. Am I back? Are we all good?
Yeah, I'm okay now.
Fab. Brilliant. So any cards you find particularly challenging? Even
the 7 of Swords. I hate that card. I hate that card. And every time it comes up, I'm like, oh, go away. I hate it. I hate that card. I think because it really does seem to have a very... I think it's confused with itself, you know, depending on what book you read as well. How it kind... So I always remember when I very first came to tarot, and I was daunted. I did have a few moments of, is this the right thing to be doing? And when I got the Everyday Witch Tarot, everything just fell into place. And that card is quite interesting in there, because it's kind of, well, are they doing something right, or are they doing something wrong? So yeah, I hate that card.
Yeah, it's very much thought of the devil within as well, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've talked about sort of the ones you look out for. We've talked about the ones that you find particularly challenging. How do you get around the courts? How do you find the courts?
Oh, yeah, that's really interesting, because I tend to always, again, I'm only reading for myself. So I can pretty much see if they mean somebody to me. So, and I tend to see them as people. Or I'm a massive split between, personality wise, between the Queen of Swords and Wands, and I really am a duality of those two. So if they come up, I tend to see them as me or elements of me. But others, like the pages, the knights, and the kings, I tend to see them as people. I think I've got a way to go on that. You're, again, probably, it's intuition, I suppose. Also, if you're reading for other people, which I don't do very often, you probably will know instinctively if that is part of their. I tend to gravitate to a part of personality. But actually, I did do a reading for somebody a couple of weekends ago, and it turned out that the page was actually their son. And it wasn't until the conversation kind of got going, and because I'm not experienced in it, that I realized. So I learned something from just doing that one reading.
Yeah, and they absolutely are. They're personality types, aren't they? So
Yeah.
It's a great way to look at it. So what's with all your collection that you've got, and I've seen them, you've got some beautiful decks. Is there anything currently at the top of your wish list?
Yeah, a few out of print decks. I think I wanted the Wizard's Tarot, the old, is it the old version?
Yeah.
I quite liked that one. And the Sacred Sites Tarot. We've got the Sacred Sites Oracle, but I don't have the Sacred Sites Tarot were too. And my husband's got the Vampire Tarot by Robert M. Place, and he won't undo it. Is it sealed? Do you know what? We got that in Glastonbury. One of the first times we went for $7.99.
Wow.
They had boxes of them.
Was that in that shop you took me to, where there was so many decks that was like £7 or £8? I brought the Lost Code, and
they've gone up, actually. They've gone up in price. They're not as cheap now, but yeah, that was where. And there was loads of them, $7.99. And he said, "Do you want one?" I went, "No, I'm not into that."
That's the shop I was trying to get you to buy the Maria Celia in the tin. Do you remember?
Yeah, I've got it. We bought it. Where did we buy it? We bought it from somewhere. I can't remember where.
Saying, oh, that's really hard to get now, because it was one of those that was released and then it was really hard to get. And
I'd love to have a shop in Glastonbury, and I would just have. It would just be tarot. It would be all, because all the shops have got a few tarot decks in, but I'd like all the indie decks in there, and all the just this where you could just go in and just see them all. Whereas they're in bookshops, they're in wherever, but there's no one shop that is just tarot in Glastonbury. Not one shop.
No, that's right. Although you're spoiled for choice, aren't you? Every time. Every shop you go into, you think, well, I might buy this now, but it might be in another shop if you go down, and you end up going in there multiple times. What you saw earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
How many times did we say, what shop was it? Where
I know, because that's the problem. And funny enough, I was after a book yesterday, the Scott Cunningham Essential Oils one, and I went in every bookshop and they didn't have it. And then I went into Star Child and I said, have you, because actually I cannot find a book on goddesses and essential oils. I kind of wanted a book that sort of just focused on that, and I couldn't find one. And the only one she could find, she said, well, the best one to try is the Scott Cunningham one. And lo and behold, there it was. I got the Scott Cunningham one. But I don't think anyone's written one on the goddesses and oils, so somebody needs to do that, really.
Yeah, put that call out there. So I think you just touched on this. So Are you a professional reader? Or are you just starting to do readings? Do you just do it for the love and fun of it, or any intention?
I don't feel good enough for that. I think I need to do a lot more practice. I've always said I'm as intuitive as a brick, and psychically I'm probably even worse. But I would like to do it. I was approached to do this reading, and I said to them, I don't actually read for other people. I do it for my own self-development, but I will do it for you. I don't charge or anything like that. And he sat down, bless him, and he said to me, I had the most phenomenal reading from this tarot reader last time. And I'm like, oh, what are you having? Talk about crushed ego. God, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And the problem is I actually, and this sounds really awful, but I like reading for witchy type of people. I did a reading for somebody in Australia who's very into this kind of stuff, and it clicks quicker. They understand. They don't want to sit there. So you say to him, oh, do you have a question? No, I don't have a question. Okay, fine. Right. Okay, where are we going to go with this? Whereas somebody in that headspace will go, okay, well, yeah, this happened to me and that happened to me, and then you get that dialogue, and then things start to open up and it starts to become more clear, and then you can see what the cards are trying to say. Whereas if it's a blank canvas, you could be anywhere, and I can't do that. I'm not skilled enough to go in and say, well, you've got this going on and that going. I can't do that.
I suppose it is a balance, because as a professional reader, 99% of mine have been done online. So therefore, you get a question, and you've got to provide a reading without interaction, because I film them, upload them privately, and send the link to somebody. But I also feel, and this is the balance part, I think if we're honest, most people who start becoming professional readers always will think that they're not good enough.
Yeah.
Because we do that, don't we? We always think we're not good enough. Just whenever we apply for a job, we think, oh, this might be a great job. But first day of work, we think, can I actually do this job? Am I going to be good enough at this job? It's human nature. You just sometimes have to jump in and see.
When I first, I did a couple online for friends, and I remember doing one of them, and it took me like 8 hours because I was referencing and I was typing it all up. And I just kind of got oh, that's nice, thank you. And I thought, why did I bother? Because it just didn't feel like they, so now I'm like, well, if somebody wanted me to do it, I'd do it. But I think that practice does make perfect, and I do agree with that. But I also felt the responsibility, and I think you touched on this when you were talking not so long ago. Actually, I was watching one of your videos. It's a huge, and that was that you were talking about the way your readings had changed, and I really felt very much a huge responsibility when I first was kind of in the field of maybe reading for other people, because it is a big thing to sit there and start carving up someone's life.
Yeah, it is. It's a massive responsibility, and it has to be done. So
yeah,
you have to realize that, if you are doing that, there is a responsibility, because your words will have power. It might be the tarot that's giving the information, but your words that you're conveying, you have to be so careful not to put your own sort of what I think is this.
Step out of it, don't you?
Yeah, exactly, and you become a tool. I just wanted to read. Caroline said, if you decided to get the Wizard's Tarot, there is a Spanish version, but there's an app you can get where the book would be in English. So that would be an option there. So you're also an avid book collector. You mentioned that a bit earlier. You've got lots and lots of books. I know you've had to let some go. You're an avid reader and collector. You've even done book clubs on your channel. What's your favourite book, Giselle, and why?
Crikey, I wasn't expecting that. Whoa. Oh, you caught me. I don't know. Well, okay. If we're not just going to limit it to witchcraft, it's going to be the Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit. They're my comfort blankets. I read them when I was a young girl, and although now the films are very old, they are hugely my comfort blanket. There's so much elf and magic in them. I just love them, and I will go back to them. And funny enough, the book that I'm reading at the moment, which I don't have in front of me, which I put on my Instagram, is Fairy. It's just come out, and I want to say the name of the author, but I can't remember it. And that kind of going into the fairy realm, into fae, into all that magic. So yeah, the Tolkien series absolutely is my comfort blanket.
Yeah, brilliant. And in terms of witchy books, is
gonna pin me down, aren't you, cheeky? Do I have a favorite witch book? Actually, probably for the time being, The Witchcraft for Tomorrow, which is Doreen Valente. And yes, she's Wiccan, but I love the way she writes. I love the detail. She was a very clever lady. She worked in Bletchley Park in the war, and she massive researcher. I would love to have met her. She is highly intelligent, knows what she's talking about. She's no nonsense, and I liked that. So I would have to say that book at the moment, because it's got lots of practical stuff going on in it, but there are some really good books out there. Yeah. Crazily, too many to go.
And what book would you recommend to somebody who is just starting out learning about witchcraft?
That book. No, I would go with that book, because okay, I think the thing for me is I kind of struggle between traditional witchcraft and Wicca, but what she did was she took Gerald Gardner's stuff and she put it into something more coherent. And he obviously, he did all this research, and he did pull from all sorts of different traditions, so you kind of got this mixed bag of stuff. But then I think they sort of elaborate. I think it really depends. I think Wicca isn't a bad place to start if you are just coming into it and you need some basics. But I think the traditional path, if you're lucky enough to know somebody who has had a traditional background or is a hereditary, I say hereditary, but I think we've all got magic and witch in us. I think it's just whether you choose to tap into it. It's like whether you choose to be a banker or a surgeon. I think whatever, it's there. It's whether you choose it or how you define it. So I think it's a good starting point. I prefer, dare I say it, some of the older authors, just because I think some stuff is constantly being redone. But for younger witches, then obviously perhaps Doreen Valente may not be the starting block. I don't know. Maybe Ellen Duggan might be a better option, or Kate West, another one. There's so many. I mean, where do you start? Where did you start?
I think the only witchy book I've got is Doreen Valente's Witch.
Right, yeah, brilliant. Read it, yeah. Absolutely. How about the biography?
Yeah, and I think it was you who put me onto that.
Wow,
yeah. Wow. And that's the only, because even though I class myself as a
pagan
Buddhist,
yeah.
The witch side of it is not something that I've really explored. I don't make remedies. I do some rituals, particularly around Sabbats, and I've done some, rituals that I've needed to do in my life, some bounding and banishing and that sort of things. But
yeah, you see it's there. It's all there.
It is.
That I would recommend that. It's a really good read. I really enjoyed reading that.
It is. It's a fascinating read. Yeah. Okay, so you talked about books and things, and for younger people and help people starting out. For yourself, if you could go back to your 16-year-old self, what would you say to her? What advice would you give?
What would I say to her? Embrace your witchcraft. Look into it, but it wasn't accessible like the internet is now. Everything's there. It wasn't, and I think I would probably say follow your. I was very maternal from a very young age, so I didn't really want a career. Wasn't really interested in that side of things. I think I would say to myself, get into a job where you've got your hands in the earth. Get into a gardening job. Get into something that maybe will bring out those qualities in you. But don't be frightened to explore, and especially the craft. I can't imagine what chaos I could have caused if I had been a witch at 16, or at least come out as a witch at 16. I would have been chaos walking.
Yeah. We've got over 100 people here. I just want to say, if anybody's got any final questions, just as I'm coming towards the end of mine, then now's your chance if you want to pop them into the chat in capitals. What would you say has either tarot or your practice taught you most about yourself, Giselle?
I'd say they work hand in hand. The tarot is a really good self-development tool for helping you to learn about yourself. But and doing shadow work, one of the biggest things for me, that the craft, the goddesses, and the tarot, the three together, have made me understand is when I started off doing shadow work, I thought that I had to annihilate these parts of me that were wrong. And now we started that in Samhain, and I'm now into June. And what I've understood is that it's not about removing them or correcting them. It's about integrating them. It's about forgiveness of self. It's about loving those aspects of yourself, because you cannot have the light without the shadow. You have to have the dark and the light. And it's a real moment when that penny dropped, and I realized that it was self-forgiveness I needed to find. I need to address those issues, but I need to learn how to either control them or mediate them, or just to know that they are real and accept that I have to encompass them. I have to incorporate them into my being. They are not separate from me. They are part of me. And that witchcraft is so forgiving in that way, and tarot is so gentle in its teaching, and the goddess is so protecting in their nurturing, that you bring those three things together and you kind of want to shout it to the world. It doesn't have to be awful. Life can be good. You can embrace that dark side, and I'm going to walk right beside you because I've done it, and I've not had an awful life. I can't say that I have, but I wish that I'd had this earlier, so that perhaps I would have changed how I brought my children up. They would have had more craft in their life. They would have had maybe just that little bit more magic awareness. So the shadow work, but the three combined, and the shadow work has really impacted, and that penny drop has only just recently happened.
Please tell me you're writing a book, or you're going to write a book.
I have written a book, and I do want to get it published, but it's a ghost story in fantasy fiction. I haven't written a book in that genre.
The way you just explained that, I just hung on every word. The way you just talked about the tarot, the craft, and the goddess. I know I'm going to go back and I'm going to write that down in my journal, because it was just beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you need to write. You need to write a book. I would read it.
For me, this is what is happening. Is that it's all kind of. I feel like it's just all there, and I don't feel like I'm nobody special. I'm a middle-aged crone who could definitely do with losing a few pounds, but. The thing for me is I want to share what I learned, because it's a nurturing experience, and there is, I hope that witches will get together, whether they're traditional or Wicca, and become the voice of healing for this planet, because I think this is the time. Without, not everyone can stand up and say it, but if you're like me and you can, you know, respectful of everybody else, respectful of all living things, that is what nature is all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our Tanji, she says, Simon, you already know my question. That's because Tanji always asks, if you could be any mythical creature, what would you be and why?
A dragon. I got a dragon on my back. You can't. I don't.
Wow.
Don't know if you can see. Can you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
Her name's Genevieve, and I love my dragons. There's nothing. They're mystical, but they're real. They're beautiful, and I can breathe fire. I'm a grandma of dragons.
A grandma of dragons. I love it. All right. So, what your channel? What do you want to do? Where do you see it going? Any plans for it? Where do you want to take it?
The hermit side of me is in the processes of saying I want to step back from Instagram and social media and just pull away for a bit and have some time out. And that's how I ended up shutting down the Madwitch Instagram and then rebooting it up as Elka Stormborn. So for YouTube, I feel as if I've got to put something out there, it's got to be worth having. And I think there are so many people doing so amazing videos. I don't know whether I've actually got anything to contribute. So if I put something up, it's got to be worth having out there. With the Instagram, it's easier because I can be literally looking at a leaf and go, oh wow. And I've been doing more poetry with my Instagram, and I was reading in one of my books, I can't remember which one, where somebody said, oh, poetry is magic. And I thought, yes, poetry is magic. That's exactly what it is. And I loved that. And I liked doing the poetry. So for YouTube, I'm not sure. As I say, I do swing between the hermit that wants to withdraw and not do anything to the gregarious side of my personality, which goes with the Queen of Wands, maybe goes, actually get out there. And it doesn't matter if you waffle, you know. But I noticed somebody mentioned the tarot. I've had one commission for a tarot bag, which I've started, but I haven't done anything with yet. I really must get on and do that. And obviously hubby's got his Instagram and he's selling stuff like that. He's doing all his Bernie stuff. So he's massively artistic and he's so talented, and I'm struggling with whatever I'm doing. So I think I do love the YouTube community. I did laugh. We got the thumbs down before we'd even opened this. I thought that was so that made me laugh. I will continue. I think I might take a break from Instagram but it's habitual. I can't seem to give it up, and I need to step back, and I just want to maybe write that book.
Yeah. And take us on your journey with you. I mean, we are our own worst critics, and you are too, because you might see it as a ramble, but everybody else just sees it as little golden nuggets of information and things. So yeah, I love your videos. I do think you've got a voice to add, you know, to the community. It's not already being said. We're all cogs in a wheel, aren't we? We've all got our parts to play, and you've certainly got yours. So
yeah.
Brilliant. Shall we play paper plastic?
Yes.
Cool. So without much thought, paper or plastic?
Paper.
Oracle or tarot?
Tarot.
YouTube or Instagram?
Instagram.
Peanut butter or jam?
Jam.
Big parties or small gatherings?
Small gatherings.
Wait or Crowley?
Wait.
Bath or shower?
Bath.
Bordered or borderless?
Borderless.
Dark and creepy or rainbows and unicorns?
Rainbows and unicorns.
Indie or mass produce?
Indie.
Tablet or PC?
I don't think I've got a tablet, so it'd have to be PC. What's a laptop? I don't know whatever the laptop is.
Yeah, PC.
What's a phone? What's a phone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Save or spend?
Spend.
Money.
My husband's money. I save my money. I spend his money.
Oh, wow, there's a compromise. That works. Money or free time?
Free time.
Phone calls or video chat?
Video chat.
Movies at home or in the cinema?
At home.
Large cards or small cards?
Large.
Life after death or total oblivion?
I'm going to go with total oblivion because there are times when I would be quite happy to be recycled. But there are times when I actually don't. And I think if I was going to go with the second option, I'd have to come back as a long tail tit.
Okay. So you see it more as coming back and recycling rather than going on to other planes and existences?
I feel that there's a good chance I just get thrown back in the pot, and I'm not quite sure I want to be spat out again. So I'm not sure. I think it would very much depend on what the options were when I got there.
Whether you have choice in them or not.
Oh dear.
Early bird or night owl?
I'm an early bird.
Woodland forest or sandy beaches?
That's a tough one. Can I have a woodland forest that backs onto a sandy beach?
Yeah, that'd be my ideal too. Yeah, I'll let you have that.
Thank you.
Toilet roll hanging over or under?
Over.
Oh, Giselle.
I'm really sorry. If I come and stay, I'm flipping the toilet roll.
Oh my!
I think it's a man thing. I think men put it on that way. To me, it's no. I don't.
My mother and my grandmother before her, I'd never seen it put that way, and I was like, "Why has somebody got their toilet on the wrong way around?"
I think it's regional.
It could be.
Like you say Bath, I say Bath.
Yeah, but half the family's from Liverpool, and the other half is from this area, so I don't know. Who knows? But never mind.
I think if it helps you any, I think Keith will do it under. So there you go. You got 1 out of 2. What can I say?
There you are. That's good then. So, any particular decks at the moment that is really sort of craving your attention, or one that you're drawn to and enjoying working with?
Well, you and I have both done a video on the 78 Tarot Elemental, which is, I'm really loving that deck, which is the one that you're using. But the other one that I'm using, ironically, is the Italian Morgan Greer.
Oh.
And I love these images. And the thing is, I find that they read really well. And yes, they are Rider-Waite. And yes, you know, that is what you're getting with these. I'm sorry, they're a bit glary, but this is the Italian version. And I'm really glad I've got the Italian. I've got it in a tin, but this one I've had out on my altar, and I find it just reads beautifully. And for that reason, on my favorite cards coming up. So there we have the 6 of Swords.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's just the way that it reads. It's borderless. Yay! I haven't edged it. I haven't done anything with it. But it just kind of, and there's the Empress. I mean, wow, look at her. I don't know whether it's the colors, but I laid them out today and I read them almost like a sentence, and I found that really helpful. So that worked really well for me. And I know it's an older deck. Oops. Oh. But there you go. That's my preferred choice. And I don't think there's any books with it, though, is there? This is just this is an old deck.
It is. Yeah, mine, I got off eBay. Mine's from the 1980s, I believe. Yeah. Is there a reason why you got an Italian version, Rob? Is it out of print now?
It was all it might have been all I could get. I don't know, actually. That's a good question. I don't know, but I think it was all that was available. So that's the one that I got. And I actually didn't mind, because with TDM decks and stuff, it being in Italian or whatever, and you know, it was easy. I could work with it. So yeah, love it.
It's a plastic deck. It's one of the greats, isn't it? Okay, what have we got? Oh, we have 10 Earth. So 10 of Pentacles. That's quite a different image, isn't it, from the 10 of Pentacles? But for me, 10 of Pentacles is about enjoying what there is to enjoy in life. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for us to constantly be chasing things, or particularly things of affluence, but it shouldn't be the be and end all of what we're striving to achieve. I think it's about, you know, finding that place in life that you arrive at where you are comfortable with what you've got and you're appreciating the things that you've got around you. So particularly if it provides security, because when we're thinking about 10 of Pentacles, it's that completion. We're thinking about the earth suit and our material life, our home, our family, our jobs. So it's about having that stability and security. So yes, you know, it's great that we can chase things that help us to focus on our dreams, but instead of focusing on affluence, just focus on what it is that's important to us, that provides that sort of basic security and safety. At the end of the day, what is worldly success? You know, how do we measure that? Because what our success might not be success to somebody else. What somebody else's success might be not what we're striving for at all. So what is worldly success? At the end of the day, with the 10 of Pentacles, 10 of Earth as it's depicted here, it's about achieving permanence. It's about arriving at that place with the 10, that completion, with everything that we've got, everything that we're happy with, and trying to have permanence in that state of being.
But also the beginning, you're starting a cycle again with the Ace of Pentacles. So that new beginning of that new cycle, which is also lovely, because, you know, nothing is stagnant and everything keeps moving. So it's a nice card. I do, the 9 and the 10 are very close together, I think, for me, with that particular suit. And being Earth, I can stand in the garden as the 9 of Pentacles, and also the 10 is that, like you say, that feeling of you've done something, you've achieved something, and then you're gonna start again. So lovely card. At least it wasn't the 7 of Swords. Yeah,
you know, that flashed through my mind as I was shuffling. Wouldn't it be sod's law if this turns out to be the 7 of Swords?
Yep.
We could have explored it together. But
thank you
for showing this, because when my friend said he couldn't connect with it, I was like, I'll take it, I'll trade it. So, and that was the day after I saw you do the walkthrough of it.
It is gorgeous. I love it.
It is. Giselle, I've had a fantastic hour and a half. It's been absolutely joyous speaking to you and just chatting with you. It's like reconnecting with an old friend and just grabbing a coffee and chatting. And I've seen the comments. Everybody's really enjoyed it as well. So thank you for being here. Anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I've missed catching up. This has been really, really lovely. I haven't been watching the chat. I will watch it back. And thank you to everybody who came in today. I've had a really lovely time, and I am very grateful to have had this hour and a half with you. So thank you.
My pleasure. And I will be back. I don't know. I think I've got a video to do tomorrow. Next Saturday will be the Tarot Times that would have been today. And that's been put back until next Saturday, as I mentioned in the video that I did yesterday. And then in 2 weeks' time, I'll be interviewing Nina from Shuffle Tarot. So that's
wow.
to look forward to. Yeah, she reached out. So, and as I've said before, anybody else who wants to come on to the Hermit's Cave to be interviewed, just drop me a message and we'll schedule a date. So take care, everybody. And until next time, go in peace. Namaste and blessed be.